Should we start with Banished? As it's something that we've all
Yay!
watched.
Yay! Now, before we start on Banished, Matt and I sort of briefly had a conversation. We have no idea what our esteemed colleague Gary is going to think. So, can we let him?
Shall I set it?
You do the premise.
Set it up, and then I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm so intrigued.
The new drama from Jimmy McGovern. It's a bit of a departure for him. This is a sort of, by all intents and purposes.
What?
For all intents and purposes,
there we go.
BBC sort of costume period drama. It's set in 1782. I know someone's going to prove me wrong on that one.
200 years ago.
More so, actually, 200 plus years. We're not in 1982 anymore, Luke. And this focuses on both the prisoners who have come over to Australia. They're like the first settlements of the, as Gary said it so eloquently last week, penal colony. And we've got like Russell Tovey's in this, Julian Rintut is in this, Maya Buring from Ripper Street, Ewan Bremner, big cast. It's a really interesting topic, and let's hear what Gary thinks.
I liked it. I found this strangely compelling. I think, like most people, when I saw the previews and when I heard McGovern, you think great, but when you see the subject matter, you're like, well, okay. But he pulls it off because what he does, he focuses, like he always done, on the characters and the people. I was most impressed particularly by Julian Rintut, or whatever his name is, mostly because that is the most understated I think I've ever seen him play anybody. Here's a comedy actor that you're more used to seeing in things like Green.
He plays the toff, doesn't he? The foppish toff. And in this, he's very sort of brooding, understated. Basically, lost his family to find love.
Well, they're convicts, aren't they? This is effectively the half. There's a real split in the cast. You have the officers who are the British settlers, and the convicts that they've been sent to sort of, transfer away from the UK. I really liked Russell Tovey. I thought he carried it very well. I really liked the different characters. I thought Ewan Bremner was great. You hated him as that character, but he did it brilliantly.
Were you surprised that you liked it? Because I was.
Yes, because
I was surprised I liked it, is what I mean by that.
Well, I think, the subject matter surprised me. I suppose the fact that Jimmy McGovern's involved meant that I thought, well, at least it will be well written. Because he always writes great characters. We know that. So I suppose we shouldn't have been surprised. And he's found a compelling subject matter. I think the thing I like the most, before I hand over to you two, is the similarities between this and Vikings and Marco Polo and Game of Thrones, in that it is a historical piece which focuses very much on the way things were done in a time, and particularly this idea where things are run by a leader, and there's the law and the church and the representations, and how justice is delivered out. We had an almost hanging in episode 1. We had an almost
that flogging was brutally shot. I thought going on from what you said, I mean, this is Jimmy McGovern, and he doesn't sort of flinch away from like the brutality of life. And we had, I mean, that scene where she gets flogged is absolutely almost heartbreaking to watch. Yeah, when you compare it to those sort of shows like a Vikings or a Game of Thrones, I mean, this is much more, I think, historically accurate, isn't it? He's researched this a lot. It's a period of history that I don't think that TV has explored before. It probably has, back in the day, but this is in recent memory.
Certainly not in our time.
Not in our generation, no. Maybe Gary's, I'm not sure.
Possibly.
But
I was there
really
when
enjoyed this. And sort of embellishing on what you said, I think what Jimmy McGovern does is he makes you understand what is going on by presenting like universal themes that we can understand with. So like this forbidden love, you understand why Russell Tovey's upset that his food keeps getting stolen by the blacksmith. Joseph Milson character who keeps saying it doesn't matter if he dies because we need to keep the blacksmith happy because he's our only blacksmith.
Yeah. I just liked how it felt. It was a period drama, but only because it was set in a period. But for the rest of the time, it felt very contemporary, and I was genuinely gripped. I thought right from the beginning to end. And Jimmy's got this amazing ability to. You spend a minute and a half with the character that he's created, and you know them.
I know we're going to go and talk about the second episode of Critical, but one of our complaints about Critical, however much we liked it, was too many characters. You didn't know anything about them. You didn't know who they were, despite the fact they got name badges on. There was none of that in Banished. He introduced his characters brilliantly in no time at all. And the cast is probably just as big, if not bigger, in Banished.
Yeah, and I mean, we said the same about Indian Summers as well, and I mean, me and Luke thought that about the Casual Vacancy. I just think there's a skill that Jimmy McGovern possesses that almost can't be replicated because he's just that good.
I remember watching Stargate Universe, and I had to watch the opening episode.
You never know what he's going to say, do you?
Very similar about Stargate Universe. I had to watch the first episode 3 times to work out who was who and what was going on. They had about 30 characters thrust into a situation, and it was so confusing. I loved the show once I got into it, but whatever it is that McGovern does, they should bottle it.